What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Best Foot Forward podcast. It's me, Vic, from Sailor Vic, and here with me, I have my amazing co-host.
I'm Ann Duskus of Studio Duskus. Welcome.
What's up, everyone? Okay, Ann, I'm just going to get right into it.
Get into it.
Today,
I want all the juice.
Today, we are going to be talking about clout. And the reason, or like clout chasing. The reason being, this is like so current for us. It's so like something that we've gotten heated over so recently that I feel like I'm like sweating already, and I have a sweater and a vest on. But tell me about like your recent experience with clout chasing, or your problems with clout chasing.
Okay. So can we first define what does it mean to clout chase? Because I think like we're very familiar with like what that means, you know, but I mean, I guess it's like very simple. It's very straightforward. Like it's in the word, find the definition. But like, why is that a thing? And why would somebody want to chase clout? And like, why is that important to people?
I feel like that is an intrinsic part of the sneaker culture, a little bit.
Is it just a sneaker
culture?
But
it's not the sneaker culture. But like
hype culture.
Hype culture, yes. Hype culture specifically, yes. I like that definition better. It's about like showing people like what you're doing and like how cool you are because you have this like materialistic item, or you have this connection with somebody really cool and famous or whatever, and you are benefiting from your relationship with them, or being able to own or get something like super exclusive, or whatever it is. It's essentially showing off, right? I think it's like that whole thing of like, I'm gonna show you that I'm super cool because I have A, B, and C.
Right. So having clout. Okay, maybe we'll remove the word chasing for a second.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about clout for a second.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say that having clout makes you cool?
I guess.
On paper.
On paper, when people do like their first scan of you, first impression, it's like, you can make a judgment on this person. Oh, this person's like cool. This person's
okay, so like a very, very blatant example would be like me posting a photo with Vicky, like she's one of my BFFs.
Get out
Love
of here.
it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like we're buddies, like we're really like friends,
right?
Versus like me posing with a photo with like a premier athlete or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's cool, and that will get me clout.
Right, because the people are like, oh, how does she know this person?
Right, and you start, like, as an audience from the outside looking in, you start making up these stories about, like, wait, why is Ian taking a picture of this person? How does she get that?
Right.
Like, why is she at the stadium
It's all based off of assumptions.
Right.
Right, because you wouldn't, like, a lot of times people do this, and it's not like their descriptions tell you everything about this relationship with someone or whatever. It's literally just a post, like the association. By association, you are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But literally it could just be like, I just happened to walk down the street and I saw this person.
Can I take a picture with you?
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but then there's no context of like how it happened.
Right.
And that buys you clout?
I guess so. That's so funny that
because you're
we
associated.
like are even saying this like clout chasing stuff. I feel like clout is a new word that I learned in my 30s.
Girl, like, you're barely in your 30s. What do you mean?
But it's like a young term, like, oh yeah, they've got clout. I don't even know how to put it into a sentence, but like clout is like a word of the youngsters. It's not something that I would be like.
Oh my gosh! Also, like aunties and grandmas would be the ones saying those are words for the youngsters. Yeah.
I admit I am an old granny.
If you are, then who am I? Okay,
no.
I'm great granny.
No,
okay?
no, not at all. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like clout and like hype and all of these things are kind of new to me because I like when I was younger, I never really had the like I couldn't afford a lot of these things, you know, like I don't even own a luxury handbag for goodness sakes. Like I don't have any of that stuff, nor do I really chase it or go after it in my regular life, you know?
Okay, wait, let me stop you right there for a second. So are you saying then clout is not necessarily defined, having clout is not necessarily defined by knowing somebody influential, but
It's
also
like a
having like
lifestyle,
like
or
a brand, a designer item, like that, like
Like-
an item in other people's eyes that makes you cool,
Yeah.
gives you clout. Are you? Is that
I
what
think
you're
it's
saying
like
too?
a whole like lifestyle
Okay.
thing. It's like materialistic, but then also like your network and like, oh my God, you live amongst the elite, you know, kind of thing. I
Yeah.
feel like it has to do with that,
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying.
right? It's like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
full package, because then people can go so many ways. Like, oh, I assume you know somebody famous. Oh, you must also be famous, or you must have a lot of money, or you must do something that's super cool in order for you to be associated with them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And so I think, okay, so within our industry, right, would you say that some of us, I know I wouldn't even say us, but like people in our industry, like enjoys that aspect of the industry?
Like clout of you know, having your is it street cred? I don't see. We're just
Yeah.
like
We're trying to
struggling
dissect
to
this.
dissect this. Yeah, because
And also we're trying not to get
yeah,
canceled.
and oh my gosh, we're gonna upset so many people because they're gonna
Yeah.
But I think it's I would say so.
Yeah.
And even in the sort of reactions that I get, if I like, let's say I got a chance to work with somebody really cool, or I worked with a company that's really cool, the immediate reaction is like, oh, like, can you set me, like, how did you get that, you know? Or like,
Right.
how did
Right.
the initial reaction, like some of the things that people say back to me are a little bit weird, and it's just
Yeah.
like, oh, like, do you
Like
think
your peers.
Right, my
Yeah.
peers. And it's like, do you think one way or another about this collaboration? Like, is this, do you know what I mean? It just like kind of rubs me in a way that's like, oh, you think this is about clout. But personally, for me, it's like a lot of the things I do. Yes, there are projects where I'm like, if I don't do it, I'm going to have FOMO, but it's less about the clout and less about like me wanting to be associated with only certain people of a caliber, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's very important to know, because I think, I know we're starting off this conversation as if we're hugely implying that clout is a bad thing. When, if we take a step back, like clout is potentially what will help us get more business.
Totally.
Whether
Yeah.
we like it or not, whether that's our goal or not,
Yes.
like at the end of the day, that's what might potentially translate into a new client. And I think while we don't actively do that, right, like chase clout, the fact that like incredible opportunities that lands in our lap also equates to like, oh, maybe they also know somebody who wants to get something done.
Right.
That might live the same lifestyle, you know, and that might have the same type of budget, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Having that kind of clout translates into business. So whether or not, you know, other people who doesn't understand that aspect of it, like they sort of see it as like, oh, that's dope. Like she's working with a celebrity client, whatever.
Yeah. It makes people want your stuff even more.
Yeah.
Because then they're like, oh, well, if this celebrity endorses your product, then I want one. You know?
Like that's how you fish, you know,
Exactly.
like you get a smaller fish to fish a bigger fish,
Right.
and use that fish to like fish a whale or a shark, whatever.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But I really want to talk about like why that's not necessarily like our goal, and why that's, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, like my oh my gosh,
Anne's like,
oh my gosh, I'm wrapped up in my
yeah,
cable.
she's like all knotted up.
Okay, so because I feel like okay, if I'm being really honest with our audience, right? Like Okay, we're anti-clout.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And
We claim that we're anti-clout. Yeah.
yeah, and again, like we feel very blessed when projects that we get to work on is associated with that.
Yeah.
But that is never the number one goal. Like
Right.
it's always just a nice bonus.
Yeah. That's not the reason why we say yes to projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we have our beef with that too. Because we often, in most cases, I wouldn't even say we often feel like it, because I feel like in most cases, clout-related projects are oftentimes, okay, Vicky, like if you need to cut this out, you cut this out, girl. But like oftentimes are not good paying gigs. And I'm gonna say that out loud, you know?
Yeah.
And
We as the creators, we get the short end of the stick when clout is in that equation.
yeah.
Right? If it's on your like invoice, you know, that out of this project you're also going to get some clout or some exposure.
Exposure, let's talk about that word.
Yeah, that takes away from what you benefit monetarily, and sometimes to an extent where it's not fair. It's not, you know, it doesn't pay enough. Let's put it out there, you know?
Yeah, and I think this is where, again, like we have to do another pricing episode, but this is where we as artists have to be very transactional when it comes to like pricing, because we oftentimes like have such a bleeding heart because we want other people to own and collect our art, that we allow sort of that emotional like conflict to get in the way of what we're actually worth. And so so like you and I, like we're anti-clout in the sense that like we will never accept a project for exposure, like for free. Like that I can say on record, like I won't do that. And I know like you feel the same way. But like, and honestly, and I will say this from my own experience, you know,
So wait, what's your reasoning for not doing a project? Let's say it's this person. I come up to you and I'm like, Ann, I have this special client and she wants a pair of your custom sneakers. And if you do it, like she's huge. She's got like this many, like a fan base of this many. She has like this many albums. She's like award winning. And if you do it, like it's a good chance for you to get your name out there.
Vicky, listen.
Yeah. Tell me.
You're just like waiting to ask me that question because you want to know.
No,
I mean,
just like,
you know how I feel about this.
What's the reasoning that you walk through in your head for you to say like, no, I'm not going to just do it because you think it's good for me, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely take the time to confirm whether or not it's a paying gig. And if it's a paying gig, what's your budget?
Right.
Like,
so you still walk through the professional steps of like, let's treat this as a business transaction. Because, okay, so it's like all of those things that this person approached you saying to like pitch to you,
right,
that this is like amazing, implying that you should either charge less or do it for free. Like, you'll be like, no, let me set you back on the path. This is a business transaction. This is how I can be professional. We can talk about budget. Totally. Is that how it is?
Totally,
okay.
Yeah. For me, that's how it works. And because I feel like if I'm treating this as a business, right, then I feel like I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you like the proper steps and the procedures and what it would take to kind of get to that product. Because you and I can agree, like oftentimes when these projects come, the turnaround time is super short.
It's ridiculously short.
Right.
Yeah.
And so like let's not even talk about how much I'm gonna have to charge you for rush. Right? Yeah. Because then I'm cutting you in line in front of all my other projects.
Ann, I have this amazing like Christmas event or whatever. Can you get it to me on the 23rd?
Right.
You know, it's like
today is the 7th. No.
And we're just talking about it now.
Yeah.
Right.
And then that often is the case, right?
Yes.
People are always like, because they don't understand how involved it is.
Yeah.
You know, so again, like we need to do a better job at educating them.
Right.
And so I definitely, like, I feel like, again, I would be doing them a disservice if I don't take the time and do my due diligence in confirming, because then I will be making the assumption that, like, oh, this is a non-paying gig based on what you're saying. But I'm just making that assumption. And so I'm like, don't assume, ask and confirm.
That's a good thing. Just like normalize opening up that conversation about money, because it's not something that you need to be ashamed of. And this is me reminding myself too, because I get all icky about money. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's just you being professional, saying like, okay, so what is the budget for this? Or what is the timeline?
Right. Yeah. Right. Because like I would love to do something for you if I can, you know, because like it would be an amazing, like depending on who this person is, maybe they're like really into like experimental conceptual stuff, which is like what I'm super into. Like, of course I would want to make something for you that's like super conceptual. But it takes time. Right. Yeah. And so like in those cases, like I think you and I have talked about this, where if this person is as famous or as important as this person claims them to be, then I would also kind of need to find out, like, okay, who is this person that's contacting me from this person's celebrity's team, right? Because I think you and I have talked about how oftentimes between the actual artist that's doing the work to the celebrity themselves, whether or not it's like a musician, an athlete, whatever it is, there's like 10 people in between us and them.
Yeah. Because, and usually gatekeepers.
Right. There's like their manager, their agent, their assistant, like all of these things, you know, their wife or their husband, you know, like everybody wants to have something to do with it. And nobody, and then, so the person who is actually going to be wearing your product in the end is not even gonna know who you are, because you know what, the person that's just like the closest to them, like one person or two person below, are gonna get full credit for whatever it is that they found that you're gonna get to wear, you know. And so I think that is the part where I have learned to really push back on, because, and again, I don't nearly get as many of those opportunities as you do, but like for me it's like, but like even just like seeing, you know, the incident from, you know, that whole Beyonce, like,
I was gonna say,
you know, like, I mean, I say scandal, but it's just like this huge like incident that happened with this artist that create these like beautiful like
costume
garments,
like pieces,
you know?
For her album art,
for like Beyonce. But then it's the person that reached out to this artist to create these beautiful like wearable art is like a stylist from Beyonce's team, and Beyonce in the end didn't even know like who created her outfits, and this person didn't get paid for their work, you know. And so it's like, it doesn't matter what kind of great intention like this person is going to, like this person who ends up wearing your product has, like everybody that's in between like you and them is going, it doesn't make it fun.
It gets lost. It gets all lost. Yeah. And that's the clout, right? That's the person approaching you being like, hey, Beyonce wants this. Yeah. And so automatically you feel like, wow, that's a huge opportunity. That in itself is going to pay for everything. Whereas at the end of the day, your name gets lost amongst all of these like levels and people in between, and you don't get anything out of it if you didn't discuss right off the top how much you were going to get compensated for it.
And also, like, will we have known about this artist that created these beautiful wearable art for Beyonce had he not come out and like confront the situation? Like, no, still to this day, nobody would know about him.
Yeah, totally. You know? Exactly.
So is he actually getting more business? No, he's not.
And like, again, I think like how many people, you say that I get more, but it's not true. How many people come up to you and are just like, oh, name dropping, you know, this person is part of this project, and making it seem like it would be silly of you to not step up to that plate, you know, and take that opportunity. Yeah. That's what I feel like we are predisposed to this, but like that's what triggers me, because in my mind I'm thinking, yeah, so what if I'm working for this person? right? How is it actually benefiting me? Are you doing anything to highlight me as an artist? Are you helping my career in this way? And also, are you bringing me a project that I actually am interested in doing?
Yeah.
I'm not interested in you having this whole idea about, what a lot of times people look at our stuff and they assume that we are like any other customizer. They don't really look at what this person is good at, what they're an expert at doing. Like your style is very distinct. And had they just scrolled a little bit more, they would have a really good idea of what you do, know? But like usually they're like, I'm sure they'll just be like, oh, I have this design in mind. I think you're able to do it. And it's like, but I don't do that kind of stuff, right? And then it adds on another layer of, but it's for this person. But it's the same thing. Like you could be a really big name, but if what you want is not what I'm known for doing or not what I want to do in my business, then that doesn't benefit me.
Yeah.
And unless you can pay the price that I'm asking for up front, then there is no transaction. There's no, there's no business here.
Yeah.
Right?
Because there is not a business, it's not a transaction of mutual benefit.
Right.
It's what benefits you more than it benefits me. So why would I be enticed to accept this project?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think like so many times I've been burned by not charging enough because I factored in exposure and clout. And then at the end of the day, it becomes a project that's overwhelming. I'm overworked, underpaid, and a lot of people have a say in what I'm doing, and it's a stressful project that so many times I come out of it, I'm like, oh, I didn't charge enough. And I tell you this all the time. I'm like, Ann, I didn't charge enough. Time to raise those prices again, because none of this stuff is talked about. Not enough people talk about like, how much famous people, celebrities, anybody who has like clout, quote unquote clout to them, expect free things.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah. And it's this culture that's built on, well, if you do this, nothing is contractual, but like they insinuate that you're going to get something out of it, based on that handshake. Based on a handshake, it's all about like, well, if you did this, you would get more exposure. But where is this like, and exposure's like thrown out as this, that's like very vague sort of thing. It's not defined. It's not like you will get exposure by this exact method. Like we will put your name here. People will know you and you will get this, like we're expected to give those kinds of stats. But when it comes to clout and exposure, it's like very general. It's like, well, no duh, you show up at this event, people are going to know you. How are they going to know you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like that goes back to like whoever the celebrity is, their team is their job to convince people to work for them.
Yeah.
And, and any time anybody says, oh yeah, like they'll probably get photographed with it. They'll probably show it off,
Yeah. Yeah.
And meanwhile, like all I can think about is like, how, there are a lot of celebrities, especially athletes, who might be with a certain athletic brand that cannot be posting other brands' products.
Yeah.
And so, which means like even if they receive something super cool that's super personalized to them that tells your story, they can never share it because they're attached to a contract to support a certain brand.
Yeah.
And so and with like non-athlete celebrities, it's like you think they're influencers, okay? Yeah. And so they're highly curated as far as how they share their content because they know it's like a flick of a wind, like they can sell like millions of products,
That's
so
how they make a lot of their money.
Exactly. So they're not just going to post casually something that they received for free.
Yes.
Like they're not.
Yes. I have been this is all anonymous, but I've been in a chat with fellow, customizers. And one person in particular, I remember, was sort of sharing the fact that, they had made something for an influencer with like 1 million followers, and then at the end of the day, they were a little bit upset that it didn't even show up on that influencer's feed, that you like made them a shoe or whatever.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, something you should expect. Mm-hmm. You should never expect that if you're going to do something for somebody who has influence, whatever that's defined as, they don't have an obligation because you didn't sign a contract with them to post anything. The fact that they're posting, if they do post, is just on their will. You cannot expect that, right? Just as much as other people can't expect you to do something, that should be mutual, And especially like it's exactly what you said, Anne, how if somebody does have that level of influence, whatever they post is their source of income.
Yeah.
And so they're not going to just randomly post anything because of their gratitude. They can show you gratitude by paying you. Mm-hmm. Right? And there's no argument there. There's no emotion attached to that, So if you just get paid for what you're worth or whatever you value yourself at, then at the end of the day, you're not going to get upset. You're not going to be butthurt by the fact that why didn't this, famous person, if this famous person shared even just a snippet in their stories, I would get so much more. But that's all paid for, Brands have to pay for that.
Yeah.
So for you to expect that is a little bit naive, I think.
And then also, like, I think I've said this, like, so many times, too. It's, like, at the end of the day, when when this celebrity finally received whatever it is you made for them, mm-hmm. They're not going to know who made it.
Yeah.
And 2, they're not going to be like, hey, what's their Instagram handle so I can tag them? Like,
right.
No one is going to do that. I'm sorry.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, to your point, like, you're naive
yeah.
to think that they have the time and bandwidth to process that. It's not that, like, they don't want to, but, like, we're, like, such a small fish in the pond. You
exactly.
know? And so I think the expectation is, like, if it's your desire to make something for a celebrity that you like, mm-hmm. then do just that.
That's
don't
your
attach
prerogative.
any expectation
mm-hmm.
to it. Like, mm-hmm. there's like, expect like nothing in return, because you just like, you and I ask each other all the time, is like, okay, if you can, like, who would you do a pair of free shoes for? And then we would throw out names, but then it's like on our terms.
Yes.
It's not because somebody asked us to do it
yes.
and we have to do it. It's because, you know what, like, I think it would be really cool to make a pair of shoes for this person,
right.
myself.
And it's very different when you say, let's say I would make a pair of shoes for free for Beyonce, as long as she just nods and says like, I will accept it. I will do it. I'll drop everything and do it, But it's different when somebody from her team reaches out mm-hmm. and says, hey, we want you to do this for her. Like, there is a distinction there. It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how you sort of avoid that resentfulness if nothing comes out of it.
Yes.
Because you wanted to do it to begin with.
Yes. A lot of the times
mm-hmm.
you take on these projects that are underpaid, and I've done it before, I am guilty of the same thing, but like, you fantasize about the potential, like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be on TV, or this is like, this person's gonna wear it on their feet, and like, so many people are gonna ask about it. And this reminds me, recently, it's so funny. So the pair of shoes that I did for a recent client was, it's kind of ridiculous, on TV, right? And I was there for maybe like a split second. You blink and you wouldn't see me. And one of our friends was like, so are you getting phone calls? Like, because this is on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, are people calling you? Like, is your phone ringing nonstop because everybody wants a pair of shoes from you now? And I'm like, no, I didn't get a single phone call.
Yeah.
It's like, you expect that these things are going to turn out. If I was featured on TV, then everybody would be lining up to buy shoes from me. It's not true. That's not how the world works.
It's not. And honestly, I think people forget that, like, if it's for example, if it's for a musician, mm-hmm. like, people like this musician because of their art.
Yeah.
They don't like this musician because of what they wear on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, they might wear something really cool that makes them, like, visually very interesting.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, we know him as, or her as a musician. We
Right.
don't know him as like a lifestyle clothing influencer.
Right.
And so I think the mistake that a lot of like people who are chasing clout is that they think they would be able to get so much more business if their product is seen with
Yes.
the person.
Yes.
But I feel like if, like, what I do and what you do, we would get so much more business if, say, for example, somebody like in our industry sported our thing. Like, for example, like Jeff Staple,
Right.
or Salehi Bunbury,
Right.
you know, like Banbury, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's like people who are in the footwear business who are into very unique type of footwear, like, there will be so much more influence there than an actual like actor or a musician,
Right.
Like,
It's like
wearing our product.
game
You know what I mean?
recognized game. Like it's,
Exactly.
it's more value to us to get that nod of approval
Yeah.
than it would be some random person that's not even really related
Right.
to our brand.
Because other people who follow these footwear influencers are actually into footwear.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it makes sense that like we would get more feedback, like positive feedback,
Yeah.
you know, like from a footwear influencer that's actually like saying something about
Yeah.
our shoes, you know, versus like an athlete or an actress, you
yeah,
know?
exactly.
Yeah.
Can I say something that potentially will get me canceled and get me into
Let's do
trouble?
it. I mean, we're already canceled, so whatever.
We talk about this all the time where like athletes is one of those categories where it's not necessarily what our brands are all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm not saying we hate doing it or anything like making sneakers or customizing sneakers for athletes. But it's one of those things that I wasn't the biggest athlete growing up, and I'm not always in tune with like what's going on in like football and basketball and all of that stuff. But one of the most common clients that approach us would be like athletes that want a pair of cleats. Mm-hmm. And you know my sentiments with cleats is that they're a pain in the butt to prep.
Yeah.
And keeping paint on when they're on the field. And it's the same with you. You were saying that you would hesitate a little bit to deconstruct and reconstruct a cleat because the build of it is so important to the performance.
Based, yeah.
Right. And so like we both have hesitations. Like a lot of people when, you know, they want to paint on cleats, for me, for example, are like, yeah, paint the whole thing. Paint the spikes at the bottom too. And I'm like, the second that you wear that on the field, it's just going to come off. All of it's going to come off. Do you really want that? And we're like, you know, more on quality than we are on just for show. And so what I'm trying to get at is a lot of people come up to you and say, well, why don't you make a pair for this athlete first? And then everybody that they know are going to be dying to get a pair. Like their teammates are going to be dying to get a pair from you. And that's where you're going to make, like, people have this, they present you with this aha moment. Like, I know how to run your business. I know how to get you more business. Because once you make it for this basketball player, the next basketball, like everybody's going to want a pair and you're going to have business all year round.
Girl.
Right?
But then my argument with that, every single time, it's like, you forget that these athletes get free stuff.
Yes.
They're not going to pay for it.
All the time.
Okay.
Yes. And you think that all of these people have so much money, and the people who you think have a lot of money to splurge and have a huge budget on these things usually don't value what we do enough, or are not aware of how long it takes for us to do something like this, because they're always amazed with gifts and like showered with free things.
Yeah.
That they don't actually know how valuable this one-of-one custom is. And so it's not a big deal to them.
Yeah.
You know, they get this and it's a big deal to you. It's not a big deal to them.
Yeah. I mean, they've seen so much.
Yes.
You know, and again, like, they're not to blame for not valuing our product, but it's like, for you to even have a chance to stand out, like, do you understand how much it will take? You know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, don't chase, like, something that's so, like, elusive.
Yes, exactly.
You know? Like,
exactly.
You have to be true to yourself and,
Yeah.
like, like do things like on your terms, you know?
Like, how ready are you? Let's say you have 2 projects in front of you. One is for somebody who, like, you're going to get a lot of clout working with, versus a project that you're, like, really excited about because it's really innovative and it's, like, right up your alley. Which one would you choose?
Latter.
Yeah, right?
I don't have to think
you
about
know?
it.
You know what I mean? So it's like, and I just want to say that, like, you might think that some opportunities will slip out of your hands if you don't take it. But the right ones, the right clients that, 1, value your work, 2, are willing to pay for it, and 3, will give you artistic freedom to do whatever you want, they exist.
They absolutely
exist. And you need to not be afraid of losing out all the time, and just aim for those ones, right? Because they are there, and you're so much happier doing those projects, you know, than doing a project that you're like, ugh, I don't even like that. I don't even like to do that, right? And a lot of the times, whatever project you do and you post, that's what people come up, that's your DMs for the next 3 months. Everybody's like, oh, how do I get a pair of this exact thing?
Right.
So it really is important for you to, like, focus on which direction you're wanting to go. If you do like working with athletes, then you should focus on that,
right.
you know? But again, that's just not something that we're focused on, which is...
Exactly. Yeah. And just listen, audience. Like, I just want to say, like, I know, like, Vicky and I sound like we are so stuck up as far as, like, how we select our project. And this really is not meant to, like, you know, make you feel like we're such divas. You know, it's really to help inspire that, like, you are free to choose your own destiny. And I'm not saying it's easy. Like, none of what we do is easy, even, like, down to, like, client selection. Like, we missed out on a lot of opportunities because it's just not right as far as compensation or time goes, you know? And I think, like, you know, if you haven't listened to, what was that episode that we did where...
Is that Saying No episode?
I can't remember, but, like, that one where I was like, always be ready to walk away, you know, from a project, because I think when you allow your emotional to get in the way of you actually accepting something that makes sense for you, it's just, there's just so much resentment, and it's no longer fun, you know? And so just remember
and
that.
Like, there's so much respect for people who have to, like, this is definitely a privilege and a luxury we have to be able to select clients, even because I know there are people out there who have to take everything that comes their way, right? Because this is paycheck to paycheck. Every job you get, you have to take it. And to that point, it's even more important because we've identified that this is a pain point in the industry, especially for us, right? That getting paid is so important that if we don't push as a community, we're never going to see the change that we want.
100%.
And, like, that's truly the reason. It's not like us sitting here stuck up like, oh, we'll only do the job if you pay us thousands of dollars, you know? It's like really about how do we make all of these other people that want to lift up sneaker culture and customizing culture by actually sustainably providing for us.
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying, like, you know, if all of this is just built off of clout, then there's no foundation to it. Yeah. And all of it's just going to crumble. Yeah. That's why, you know, it's really unfortunate, but a lot of our customizer friends can't do this full time. They do it and then they realize this isn't a full-time thing. This is always my side hustle. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
I know. Just think about it. Like, next time, like, if you're interested in getting, like, something made for you, you know, like, think about us and our peers as, like, how you would vet, like, interior designers or a plumber, or, you know, somebody that's gonna come do work for you,
like, or even just a lawyer. A lawyer has to charge per minute.
Everyone has their fees, and, like, and you don't have to choose the one that's most expensive if that's out of your budget. You know, there is, like, someone for everyone. Yeah, and so just be kind.
Yeah, be kind to everyone and
be respectful of what they charge. You know?
Exactly. After going through all of this stuff like pricing and clout chasing, exposure, all this stuff, I've become a little bit more aware of like other people. So if I'm buying things from other people, like I sort of understand that if that's their price, a lot of the times it's because they put X amount of time into it.
Yeah.
And like that's how much it costs, you know, and
Totally.
I question it a little bit less.
Yeah.
Because I appreciate the time that it takes to do all of this.
Yeah, that's their value, and that's how they value themselves.
Yeah.
And you can knock on that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
all right.
Well, but thank you for hanging out with us. If you like this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share with the buddies so you can help other people find this podcast.
Yes. And we love having you guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.